changed greatly, the residents continue to uphold the value of their village.
와. 야. 정말 신기하네요. 구조가 참 신기하네요.
신기하죠?
예.
In an era where disappearance has become familiar, Cheongdin Village sought change not through redevelopment, but through a new approach. By preserving the village's historical significance while improving the living environment, they have worked to create a more livable community. Above all, through communication and connection among residents, they have created and documented memories together.
여기가 이 정든마을 여기 주민분들이 이용하시는 공간인가 봐요.
예, 주민 공동
네.
시설로
The residents have captured the various aspects of their village, which has been their steadfast support over the years through photographs. Knowing that these photos will become a valuable asset for future generations and for the village's history, the residents themselves have sincerely documented their memories. Their love for the village has transformed narrow alleyways into playgrounds full of laughter and old, worn walls into vibrant, cheerful spaces. By actively documenting their memories and engaging with the community, the residents themselves share in the spreading happiness.
Have you ever wondered just what it is?
And so, the history of Cheongdin Village has been built up little by little.
아, 여기 그 말씀하셨던 팝콘 파시는 그 예. 파셔갖고 여기다 또 보태주시고.
For some, Cheongneung is where they found their greatest happiness in life. That's why, even without being asked, the residents continue to build and cherish those memories, one layer at a time.
I know it's really rather stupid of me.
뭐 저도 나이가 들어가고 있고요. 그런데 저희가 생활하면서 이 지역을 돌면서 어느 순간 없어져 가는 것들이 있는 것 같아요. 물론 작은 변화라고 할 수 있지만 그게 결국은 없어지면 우리가 기억도 희미해지고 이런데 결국은 남는 건 사진이나 글 뭐 이런 자료인 것 같아요. 그래서 저희 몇몇 사람들이 나름 이 지역에서 없어져 가는 것에 대한 아쉬움 뭐 이런 것 때문에 그런 기록에 남기고자 애쓰고 있는데요. 무슨 뭐 막 재원이 있는 것도 아니고 그래서 되게 소소하게 하고 있습니다.
요즘은 이웃 간에 이렇게 관심도 없고 사람들과의 소통도 단절된 시대인데 오늘 이곳을 방문해 보니까 이웃 간의 정을 느낄 수 있었고 또 소중한 공간과 좋은 추억들이 함께하는 그런 곳이 아니었나 생각이 듭니다. 아무쪼록 사람들의 인정을 많이 느낄 수 있는 이곳에서 오래오래 좋은 추억들 많이 간직하셨으면 좋겠습니다.
held its first debate over the weekend.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the status UN summit.
A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
아리랑.
도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 APEC은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성, 포용,
개방.
신라의 정신이 APEC 2025로 이어집니다.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Right after his summit with the U.S. President in Washington, D.C., President Lee Jae-myung visited the Hanwha Philly Shipyard, highlighting his push to boost shipbuilding cooperation with the United States. After holding talks with President Lee, U.S. President Donald Trump said Seoul and Washington have decided to keep their trade agreement, signed last month, despite what he described as a problem. A special delegation team sent by President Lee to China says Chinese President Xi Jinping will likely visit South Korea to attend the APEC summit in October, unless something unexpected comes up. We begin with President Lee's final stop on his U.S. trip at the Hanwha Philly Shipyard, a symbol of South Korea-U.S. shipbuilding cooperation. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin files this report from Philadelphia.
This is the state of Maine, a $300 million vessel ordered by the U.S. Maritime Administration and built at the Hanwha Philly Shipyard in Philadelphia. President Lee Jae-myung traveled from Washington, D.C. to attend Tuesday's naming ceremony, underscoring his push to expand South Korea-U.S. shipbuilding cooperation, a key focus of his summit with President Donald Trump at the White House the day before.
미국 조선업과 대한민국 조선업이 함께 도약하는 윈윈의 성과를 만들어낼 것이고 오늘의 새로운 출항은 한미 양국이 단단한 우정으로 써내려가는 또 하나의 희망과 도전의 역사로 기록될 것입니다.
The state of Maine is a prime example of the Make American Shipbuilding Great Again project, combining Korean design and equipment with U.S. facilities and workers. This national security multi-mission vessel will serve as a training ship for American maritime academies and conduct rescue missions during emergencies. Its birthplace, the Hanwha Philly Shipyard, was acquired by Korea's Hanwha Group last December and has become the symbol of this bilateral partnership.
최첨단 선박 기술을 보여주는 미국 최고의 조선소로 거듭날 것이고 미국 해안벨트 곳곳에서 조선업이 다시 살아날 것입니다. 72년 역사의 한미 동맹은 안보 동맹, 경제 동맹, 기술 동맹이 합쳐진 미래형 포괄적 전략 동맹의 새 장을 열게 될 것입니다.
Together with our partners in the United States and following both President Trump's and President Lee's vision to revitalize the maritime industry, we look forward to new investments, new opportunities, and to playing a central role in making American shipbuilding great again.
Following the ceremony, President Lee toured the yard where he asked U.S. officials to ensure smooth operations for Korean shipmakers doing business in America. So with this, President Lee has wrapped up his busy 3-day visit to the U.S. Korea's Air Force One jet will return home early on Thursday. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Philadelphia.
And on the final day of his 6-day two-nation trip, President Lee Jae-myung also visited the Arlington National Cemetery to pay tribute to fallen soldiers and a memorial house in Philadelphia to honor a Korean independence activist. Our presidential office correspondent Yoon Jang-min reports from Washington, D.C.
President Lee Jae-myung began the final day of his U.S. trip by visiting the Arlington National Cemetery near Washington. A 21-gun salute was fired from near the cemetery. The president laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier with his name on it. He was accompanied by First Lady Kim Hae-kyung, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, and the U.S. Chief of Protocol, Monica Crowley. The cemetery is where thousands of U.S. service members are laid to rest. Later in the day, he and the First Lady traveled to Philadelphia and visited the Philip Jason Memorial House to honor a Korean independence activist. Yi said he hoped the Memorial House would continue its role and inform future generations of the history of Korea's independence movement while contributing to the local community. Also known as Seo-jae-pil, Philip Jason was not only an activist, but a doctor, journalist, and the first Korean to gain citizenship in the U.S. It's the first time in 26 years that a South Korean president has visited the Memorial House. As the president concludes his week-long overseas trip, his message was evident for those who sacrifice themselves to save and defend the country. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.
U.S. President Donald Trump, speaking at a cabinet meeting following his summit with President Yi, said Seoul and Washington will stick to the trade deal signed last month, even though there was what he called a problem. Meanwhile, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick praised Trump's trade policies, citing $900 billion in investment from South Korea and Japan combined. Our Lee Seung-jae has the details.
A day after he held summit talks with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung in Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump said Tuesday that Seoul has honored its trade agreement with Washington, despite what he described as a problem that South Korea had.
I heard there was a problem with South Korea, but we met yesterday and they're done. We didn't do it. We just kept the same deal. He honored the deal they wanted.
Speaking at a cabinet meeting, Trump highlighted a series of trade agreements his administration has reached to reduce America's trade deficits and increase federal revenue. He also noted that Seoul wanted to see if they could do something, but stuck to the agreement in the end. President Trump did not elaborate on the problems surrounding the deal. Meanwhile, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick highlighted Trump's success through his trade policies. Lutnick announced that South Korea and Japan will be making massive investments in the U.S., totaling $900 billion.
Japan and Korea, they're never going to open their markets to us. So we've negotiated $900 billion that they're giving you to invest in national and economic security in America.
According to Lutnick, South Korea has agreed to invest $350 billion, while Japan will contribute $550 billion. In exchange, Washington will lower certain tariffs. The secretary said the funds will be pooled into a new National Economic Security Fund, which the administration intends to use for major infrastructure development projects. He praised the deals as a clear example of how tariffs are delivering results for the American economy. Still, questions remain. While Japan's investment plan is expected to be announced later this week, details of South Korea's $350 billion commitment have yet to be outlined. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
So now South Korea and the United States have agreed to expand economic cooperation, particularly in fields such as shipbuilding and energy. And Korean companies, for their part, announced a substantial additional investment pledge in addition to last month's trade deal. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Shin Se-don, professor of the Division of Business Economics at Sookmyung Women's University. Professor Shin, thanks for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
So President Trump said the United States plans to buy ships from South Korea and work with Seoul to revive America's shipbuilding industry. And he also visited a shipyard owned by South Korea's Hanwha Group in Philadelphia, right? Shipbuilding has been an area the two countries have agreed to closely cooperate on, even before the summit. What's your take on this initiative?
Well, as you know, United States has been the strongest shipbuilding industry countries back in 1940s until 1940s. And now, after about 80 years, Korea and Japan has been one of the two most significant shipbuilding industry countries in the world. Because, United States has a military power in marine kind of military power, they require, United States wants to build the shipbuilding industry as it was back in 1940s. But the problem is United States, I don't think, does not want to revitalize commercial vessel making. Rather, they want to concentrate on rather strategically important military vessels like cruisers, carriers. So in that area, Korea does not have a technological superiority. So the technological superiority of the United States in the military vessels and the Korea's advantage in commercial vessel making, I think two countries has a great area of mutually beneficial cooperation. I think that is the main kind of framework those two countries are trying to develop, industrialize, and make economic and militarily secure. So shipbuilding industry is one of the most important area of mutual cooperation between the two nations, I think.
Right, definitely. And what Trump also said is that the United States will work with South Korea and Japan on the Alaska Energy Project and develop natural gas reserves there. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, if you look at, when the Trump administration began in January, one of the first, executive order made by Trump is energy dominance. Energy dominance is one of the most critical element of Trump administration, and that's why he established the National Energy Dominance Council. So energy is one of the area Trump, administration is deeply concerned, and there are many, potential energy producing fields in Alaska, in California, in the Midwest United States. So I think United States wants to build energy dominance, and Korea and Japan has been importing hundreds of billions of dollars of natural gas from outer sources. So I think natural gas is one of the area, including the shipbuilding, is the area that both the United States and Korea could cooperate for the mutual benefits. So I think it's going to be a great deal of efforts for Korea and the United States to have joint ventures, possibly Japan also. Together, I think, put a lot of money into investment in the natural gas field. So I think natural gas area is another very critical area of cooperations between the United States and Korea.
I see. And on concerns on tariffs, President Lee Jae-myung was also tasked with finalizing details of the trade agreement that the two countries reached last month, right before the August 1st deadline. And at the summit, President Trump said he's aware South Korea wants to renegotiate, but insisted Korea will stick to the terms of the original agreement that they signed last month. Still, Korean and U.S. officials have very different views on issues like opening the rice and beef markets. How do you expect the tariff issue to unfold?
Well, I think in this summit meeting last night, I think Korea wanted to lower the reciprocal tariff from 15% possibly to 10%, but the American government was pretty strong about it, and they denied any renegotiation of the reciprocal tariff lowering below 15%. So I think for the time being, reciprocal tariff is 15%. That is fixed. And another problem for Korea is that America has been wanting to open up, their products, their agriculture and the dairy products to the Korean market. And Korean government has been pretty adamant, not to open your agricultural products. So United States want to open up Korean agricultural product, and Korea administration denied it, and Korean administration wanted to lower the tariff, reciprocal tariff below 15%, and America has denied it. And so in that field, I think it is equal. It is reciprocal in that sense. But the problem, I think, in the future, America is intending to raise so-called, Section 232 232 tariff. We call it security tariff. That is 50% on steel and aluminum products. And America has been announcing that they want to levy Section 232 tariff upon semiconductor products, pharmaceutical products, and many other critical products. So I think Korea has to renegotiate with the United States when those Section 232 tariff, which is going to be 50%, and that's going to be pretty critical for Korean exports to the United States. So I think the future agreements, future negotiations between the two governments will be focused upon Section 232 tariff, which we call the security tariff.
Right, a lot of issues to tackle there, but I guess we'll have to see how it goes. All right, Professor Shin, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it. Leading foreign outlets have observed that the South Korea-U.S. summit managed to steer clear of anticipated tension, unfolding in a notably smooth manner. Our Moon Ji-young reports.
Contrary to widespread concern, global media outlets have highlighted that the high-stake meetings proceeded without incident.
Foreign media outlets see this summit as a significant milestone that strengthens trilateral cooperation among South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, centered around the ROK-U.S. alliance, and as having removed uncertainties, thereby restoring the growth potential of our companies.
The New York Times specifically pointed out that President Trump talked up the Korea-U.S. alliance, notably expressing interest in purchasing South Korean ships. The newspaper also noted Trump's repeated comments on his good relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, saying North Korea has great potential and even offering to mediate a meeting between Kim and President Lee. The BBC noted President Lee's diplomatic prowess, highlighting his ability to charm and successfully avoid public disagreements, especially on sensitive trade and defense issues. It also observed that the leaders found common ground regarding North Korea, with President Trump frequently mentioning North Korean leader Kim. The Washington Post added that despite apparent differences, Trump and Lee found common ground, with the summit serving to establish rapport between them. Both leaders survived assassination attempts last year and saw political boost despite past indictments. Politico characterized President Lee's outcome as a definitive win, observing that he emerged unscathed and even charmed President Trump through lighthearted exchanges. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea sharply criticized South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, accusing him of being delusional over the prospect of denuclearization. The rebuke came on Wednesday, shortly after President Lee met with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. Following their summit on Monday, President Lee emphasized that the two leaders had agreed to work closely together to establish peace and pursue denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. In a statement carried by the state-run Korean Central News Agency, Pyongyang dismissed Seoul's expectations as nothing more than a futile delusion. While South Korea and the United States have sought to revive talks on denuclearization, North Korea has consistently insisted its nuclear arsenal is non-negotiable, framing it as essential to national security. And Chinese President Xi Jinping is expected to attend APEC 2025 Korea in Gyeongju this October, barring any major changes. The special envoys of South Korean President Lee Jae-myung said during their visit to Beijing on Tuesday that they again conveyed hope for President Xi's visit and believe he's likely to come unless something unexpected comes up. The delegation delivered President Lee's personal letter for Xi on Sunday. Delegation head Park Byung-seok says Seoul would like President Xi to visit first, noting that Xi has not been to South Korea since 2014, while South Korean presidents have visited China several times. Meanwhile, on issues such as lifting China's unofficial ban on Korean cultural content, he added that differences still remained and more time will be needed.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Beginning in the United States, where President Donald Trump said he's prepared to hit Russia with severe economic sanctions if President Vladimir Putin does not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. On Tuesday, President Trump stated at a White House cabinet meeting, "We want to have an end. We have economic sanctions. I'm talking about economic because we're not going to get into a world war." He warned that failing to secure a ceasefire would result in economic consequences for Russia, but with no risk of war. While such measures were delayed previously in hopes of brokering a deal between Russia and Ukraine, Moscow's lack of movement has now prompted the possibility of very serious sanctions. Australia has made a rare decision to expel Iran's ambassador after accusing Iran of organizing 2 anti-Semitic arson attacks in the country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stated on Tuesday that substantial evidence has been gathered indicating that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps used proxy networks to coordinate 2 firebombing attacks in Australia. One attack occurred at a synagogue in Melbourne in December, and the other targeted a kosher cafe in Sydney. Australian intelligence has confirmed that encrypted transfers and links to organized crime were aimed at concealing Iran's involvement in these incidents. In response, Australia has officially designated the IRGC as a terrorist organization, suspended operations at its embassy in Tehran, and recalled its diplomats from Iran. Additionally, Iran's ambassador and 3 other officials have been given 7 days to leave Australia. It's the first time Australia has expelled an ambassador since World War II. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry has strongly rejected the accusations, and Jewish community leaders have expressed relief at the Australian government's actions. France has returned 3 colonial-era human skulls to Madagascar during a ceremony held at the French Ministry of Culture in Paris on Tuesday. One of the skulls is believed to belong to King Tuera, a 19th century Malagasy monarch who ruled over the Sakalava people and was killed by French troops in 1897. The other 2 skulls are from the same ethnic group. French Culture Minister Rachida Dati described the handover as a historic step toward reconciliation, while Madagascar's Culture Minister Volamiranti Donamara called it a profoundly meaningful event for the Sakalava community. American pop star Taylor Swift announced her engagement to NFL star Travis Kelce on Tuesday, sharing a joint post on social media featuring photos of their floral proposal. The post's caption, which earned more than 20 million likes, read, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." Swift and Kelce, both 35, have been dating for 2 years since 2023 after Swift performed at Arrowhead Stadium, home of Kelce's Kansas City Chiefs. President Donald Trump congratulated the couple, saying, "I wish them a lot of luck."
It was a rough morning commute with dense fog in western regions, but conditions have gotten much better with a rise in temperatures. However, we are expecting some showers, with the East Coast region seeing about 5 to 20 millimeters in the forecast. The passing rain is in the forecast for Chungcheong, Pukto, Gyeongsang-Namdo, as well as Jeju Island. Now, yesterday's rainfall eased a heat wave in the central parts of Korea. We didn't have to deal with a tropical night last night, and I'm sure you felt the relief on your way to work this morning. And for now, heat wave alerts only remain in place for southern provinces, but temperatures will climb high enough for heat wave alerts to be reissued in more areas. And this afternoon, Seoul and Daegu will reach 33. Gyeongju will get a heat relief from yesterday's searing heat wave. UV rays will be very strong in most parts. It looks like frequent rain from Friday in the capital area. Then September will start on a rainy note nationwide, and that should bring much awaited heat relief to the country.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
저는 만 5살에 바이올린을 시작했는데요. 바이올린 소리를 워낙 좋아했어서 그 특유의 따뜻함과 약간 사람의 목소리 같은 목소리를 갖고 있거든요, 바이올린이. 저는 무대에 올랐을 때보다는 이제 혼자 연습할 때 더 큰 희열을 느끼는데 제가 표현하고자 하는 음악이 잘 나왔을 때 그때 가장 큰 기쁨을 느끼는 것 같아요. 그래서 저만의 색깔을 어떻게 하면 찾아갈 수 있을까 그걸 제일 많이 고민하는 것 같아요. 아무래도 연습을 할 때는 이제 생각과 고민을 많이 하는 반면에 무대에서 연주할 때는 정말 머릿속을 비우고 아무 생각도 안 하려고 하는 것 같아요. 무대에서는 자유롭게 콩쿨 무대도 저만의 독주라고 생각하는 자세를 가지려고 하고 있어요. 사실 바이올린과는 거의 제 인생의 대부분을 같이 해왔기 때문에 저를 힘들게 할 때도 많지만 제가 가장 사랑하고 아끼는 존재입니다. 작곡가가 전달하고 싶은 메시지와 또 제 자신이 관객들에게 전달하고 싶은 메시지를 모두 다 설득력 있게 잘 전달할 수 있는 그런 연주자가 되고 싶습니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, August 27th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kwon Ji-yeon.
Good morning, Soo-jin.
Good morning. Also, Im Sang-was with us.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Wednesday, which means we're going to begin with our keyword news, where we look at a story that has been gaining traction over the past 24 hours. And today's keyword is potato bread. A signature snack from South Korea's Gangwon-do province, potato bread is making waves in Japan. According to Kotra, the snack set the highest sales record for a single bakery item in 10 years during a Tokyo department store pop-up with lines stretching for nearly an hour. But it's not just food that's attracting Japanese crowds. Pinkfong, the Korean character behind the global Baby Shark hit, opened its first standalone pop-up store in Japan on August 14th, also drawing long lines of visitors on opening day. So, Sang-yeon, which Korean snack or product do you see going global next?
Well, I recently found a gem of my own.
Oh, okay.
Recently
Please share.
At a nearby convenience store. It's called the melon cake. It's a slightly different version of the original banana cake, which is a snack that tastes like a sweet banana, and the texture is crispy, so it has been popular for a long time in the Korean food industry. The new melon cake looks just like its original prototype, but it has the flavor of sweet melon. Now, the best compliment for Korean snacks is that I'm pretty sure that you guys know about this, that it's sweet, but it's not that too sweet. And I think this is because Koreans don't really like overly sweet products filled with sugary coatings. And melon cake is the one that fits right into this expression. It's sweet, but it's not too sweet, which is the reason why many people love it. And overall, I think Korean snacks are tastier than other snacks in other countries. I'm not saying this because I'm Korean, but truly there are many different flavors and tastes among Korean snacks, from the one that tastes like a shrimp to snacks that taste like bananas, melons, or even rice cakes.
There's definitely a wide variety of flavors. Another thing about banana cake that you mentioned, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have flour in it.
No.
So I'm guessing melon cake, that's another benefit of that. So what about you, Ji-yeon?
Oh, I think it's very difficult to just pick only one that is going global. But if I had to choose one, I'd point to a Korean crisp shaped like a turtle's shell. Yes, it looks like a turtle shell. And they've just released a new flavor that is yangnyeom chicken flavor, a nod to Korea's famous sweet and spicy fried chicken that is both in Korea and the United States. It is sweet, salty, and spicy all at once, with the spice kicking in at the end. Yes, Korean people like those saltness and spicy, and this as well. It's a smart move combining a beloved soul food with a snack that already travels well abroad. This crisp is now sold in over 20 different countries, and you can even find it in more than 200 American stores. Since its first launch in 2017, it's built up nearly 5 trillion won in global sales, making it one of Korea's strongest snack exports. So it's no longer just a local treat, it's becoming part of a global K-snack road. So this is Korea's soft power, one crunch at a time.
I like what you said at the end there, one crunch at a time.
That's right.
So from potato bread to pinkfong, it seems Korean products continue to find new ways to win fans abroad. And here on NewsGen, we will keep a close eye on what will be the next flavor, trend, or character to capture global attention. And that concludes our keyword news for this Wednesday. And as we head into the third day of the work week, we're diving into the fascinating debate over sons versus daughters and how shifting preferences reflect deeper changes in family values and society. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more.
Sons or daughters, daughters or sons. It's a debate that sparked conversation in families across cultures and generations. Traditionally, many countries around the world, including here in Korea, sons were considered the more desirable choice, often because they were expected to carry on the family name or provide financial security. But times are clearly changing. Even in countries that once showed a clear preference for sons, such as Korea, we're now seeing a shift towards daughters, reflecting broader changes in society and family values.
So today on News Generation, we're going to explore why this change is happening, what it tells us about our culture, where the conversation might go from here.
So as we just saw, South Korea is now ranked as a #1 country in the world when it comes to parents preferring daughters over sons. That's a remarkable finding, especially considering that not too long ago, the opposite was true. Sons were often considered more desirable because of traditions like carrying on a family name or providing financial support. But times have clearly changed, and this shift says a lot about how Korean society and family dynamics are evolving. So today, we're going to dive into this trend of South Korean parents increasingly preferring daughters. So Chun, since you're a mom yourself, I'd like to start with you. Do you personally feel this preference for daughters among other moms around you these days?
Definitely.
You see
A lot. Well, I do feel that among mums around me, there's a strong sense that you really should have a daughter. You need a daughter in your life. Well, you know, many say daughters make the best companions because they speak as they grow. And I'm a mum of 2 boys, in fact, but to be honest, I always imagined my first child would be a girl. When the doctor hinted buy something blue, I was stunned and tried to hide my reaction because, you know, the one in my belly was listening to it. But well, in the end, I just dressed my son in all of that, in all of the stuff. Well, with my second, I was told for months it was a girl until plot twist, it was a boy. We've got all the presents in pink color, pink walls as well. And I have to tell the company that I have it changed into a daughter to son. My husband and I we were speechless. We were very quiet for a moment. So yes, I see why many prefer daughters. They are thought to stay very close with their mom and dad and care for their parents a lot. But I wouldn't call it a ranking or a competition. What I really feel is that values have shifted a lot from carrying on the family line to who will be there for you when you get older. And in the end, most parents, myself included, simply wish for healthy, happy child. And so whether it's blue or pink, the color that really matters is joy.
But that must have been quite a shock when you found out later on.
I thought it was pink and then it turned into blue.
And you found out quite later during the pregnancy? 8 months.
Yes.
You definitely did have all the things prepared for a daughter.
Indeed, absolutely.
But I guess now you're quite happy with
I am definitely happy indeed, absolutely.
So as for you, Sang, I know you don't have any children yourself yet, but do you hear this preference for daughters among your friends who want to become parents, maybe?
So I'm not married and I don't have children, but when I asked this question to friends around me, 9 out of 10 say
really, so a clear majority.
Yes, they say they want daughters. And this was regardless of male or female friends. And I think it has to do with a general social norms. They have a belief that daughters tend to be more friendly and respectful to their parents than sons. So raising a baby is challenging, of course, regardless of gender, but there is a higher chance that boys are more tough to handle and cause troubles as they grow. And when parents retire and get old, it's usually the daughters that take care of their parents. And of course, there is no give and return in parenting. It's a one-way love. But when you think about the time and energy, girls are easier than raising a boy, and this is leading to many young couples preferring daughters these days.
So do you have any siblings by any chance?
I have a younger brother.
You have younger brothers. Would you say you were difficult to raise, you and your brother? How was it?
Well, according to my mom, we were relatively easier to raise than other family with 2 sons, but I'm not really sure about that. But still, I guess, yeah, I went smoothly throughout my puberty, so I guess we were relatively easier.
So looking more broadly, let's take a step back and consider the bigger picture. So Jian, how has Korea's preference for daughters evolved over the years, and what factors have driven that change?
Well, in fact, Korea's attitude has dramatically changed over these years. Well, if you look at the chart, according to a recent survey, about 28% of Koreans now say they prefer daughters. That's a remarkable turnaround back in 1992. 58% wanted sons and over 10% wanted daughters back in the days. In just 3 decades, the tables have completely turned. And another survey last year found that 62% to be exact, of Koreans believe you should at least have one daughter, while only 36% said the same about sons. I can tell from those everyday encounters that society's mindset has truly shifted. I can really feel that in daily life. In fact, when I'm out with my two boys, older people who like to speak to other people often stop me and ask me, well, or say, you should have at least have one daughter. You know, you have only two sons. Sometimes I want to reply, well, if it's guaranteed, I would like to have that. You know, promising thing, but I just smile to them, you know. But in the past, though, things were completely different. Korea was a farming society, and families wanted sons who could work the land. It was an agricultural society and provide physical labor for them. That's why boys were often seen as more valuable. But today, the picture has shifted. One key reason is elder care in Korea. Most caregiving still falls on women. For example, a study showed that 82.4% of those caring for dementia patients were females. 42% were daughters, but only 15% were sons. So it's no surprise parents now see daughters as more likely to offer support later in their life. In the end, it's not about sons or daughters, it's about who actually answers the family group chat.
So you're a daughter. Do you answer the family group chat often?
Often, always. I send them.
I see.
Yeah,
and do you have a brother?
I have an older brother. He never replies.
He's never there?
He's never there. I don't think he exists in the room, in the chat room, though.
So do you have anything you'd like to add to this, Hanwha? Could you share more about maybe the fundamental shift in society's perceptions, how that's impacting the way parents think about having daughters versus sons?
Definitely sons were more preferred decades back. But now daughters are becoming a better option, and this is not because of a shift in preference of a certain gender, but it's a signal that social perception toward the view of a family and the role of caring one's parents are undergoing a structural change. So during the 80s and 90s, a general social norm was that sons are the ones that would take care of parents after they age, while daughters were a bit considered to be a giveaway to another family after getting married. But now the reality is daughters turn out to be the ones that support their parents after retirement, creating a social atmosphere that daughters are more helpful and trustworthy than sons. Again, it's inappropriate to measure the value of your child, but still daughters are becoming a mental asset to their parents, providing care and well-being.
So what about you? You're a son. Do you see yourself taking care of your parents, like in the way back in the future?
Yes, I would definitely take care of my parents after they retire and get old, because I'm the first child. So as a first child, I have been enrooted with deep responsibility since I was young. So yeah.
So you're a good son. So I guess it's not just daughters that do this. So yeah. So Jiyeon, so what makes this trend especially interesting is that it's almost a complete reversal from the past. So traditionally, how did Koreans view sons versus daughters?
I think we have to look at the past, our tradition, our culture. Well, back in the day, sons were considered far more precious in Korea, as Hanwha mentioned. Under Confucius tradition, people strongly believed a son should carry on the family line. And many couples would keep trying until they had a boy, son, even if they already had several daughters. If you look back at your grandparents' generation, you often see big families with many daughters, and at last the youngest child being a boy. Sometimes family even named their last daughter with Nam, meaning boy in Chinese letter, like Pongnam or Nam, hoping the next child would finally be a son. It really shows how powerful that our old mindset was back in the days and how much times have changed. But imagine being the daughter called boy. You have a boy name at the end of your letter name, and you know, still had it, but the brother hasn't still arrived. So proof of how far we have come now.
We really have, because, you know, I'm the only daughter in my family, and I do remember even when I was a kid, like my grandparents would be like, you have to be kind of the son of the family. So I remember hearing this. And you actually have a brother. Do you feel like, did you ever have a you feel like your grandparents kind of preferred your brother over you sometimes?
A little bit. I think they did prefer son over your daughter. But, you know, there was some sort of discrimination when it comes to food. But, you know, if you think about that, I think they love both of us. Yes.
They do. It definitely shows how times have really changed.
Right, indeed.
So looking beyond Korea, so how does the shift compare with global trends, Hanwha? Are the other countries also showing a growing preference for daughters, or is Korea kind of more unique in this regard?
Actually, the people from other countries are saying that baby's gender don't really matter. So across the globe, 65% of the respondents from 44 states mentioned that their baby's gender is not that important. 15% say they prefer sons, while a slightly bigger 16% prefer daughters. Countries with higher preference on daughters were in the order of South Korea, Japan, Spain, Philippines, and Bangladesh. However, if you look at Korea only, 56% of the respondents still said that genders doesn't really matter, which is contrary to what we mostly believe. The countries that wanted sons over daughters were in the order of India, Philippines, Ecuador, and China.
This is really all really interesting. So traditionally, parents have seen different advantages to having sons versus daughters. Each comes with its own unique joys and challenges. And what makes today's trend so fascinating is that Korea, which historically, as we talked about, leans heavily towards sons, is now showing a clear shift in preference towards daughters. And this change reflects broader social transformation, attitude towards gender roles, family dynamics, and even economic considerations have all evolved over time. So to get a better sense of where people stand on this issue, we conducted a poll on the Arirang's YouTube channel asking if you could have one child, would you prefer that it be a boy or a girl? So 41% of respondents said they would choose a girl, while 23% said they would prefer a boy, and 36% said they had no particular preference. So the results are also quite interesting. So to gain a broader perspective on this topic, we'll also be speaking with someone from a country that, in contrast to Korea, has ranked very high for its preference for sons. So that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us is Monita, a student from India who's currently studying here in Korea. Hi, Monita. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here again, and thank you. Yeah.
So, thank you. India is ranked first in the world for its preference for sons, with 39% of the people surveyed expressing this view. So how about in your own family or among the people you know? Do you notice this preference?
Well, 39% is such a significant number. Yeah, I think it's true that India still shows preference for sons, but the situation is very diverse across regions. I personally from Manipur, Northeast India, and in my own family, I've never been treated like differently. Well, and I've never felt such biasness. And I consider myself very fortunate to have been treated equally and receiving my family's full support in terms of education. And thanks to all those encouragement, I'm now able to pursue my career in here, South Korea, which is truly meaningful to me. However, I've also noticed that this mindset still exists in some parts of the society, Indian society. I think it often comes from traditional beliefs that sons would carry the family line and perform all those religious rituals, the last rites, yeah, and are seen more reliable in supporting parents in all ages. While daughters, on the other hand, are expected to marry into another household. And for some communities, even now, like having a son is still tied to pride and social status. But I do some positive changes. Daughters are excelling in education, careers, and supporting their families just like sons. And my story is one of the examples of this shift. So while the preference still exists, I still feel hopeful that Indian society is also moving towards a greater equality.
I see, Monica. I think you mentioned a little bit, but in your opinion, what do you think are the main reasons behind the preference for sons?
In my opinion, traditions. I think the main reason would go back to historical circumstances and traditional practices. So traditionally, sons were the only ones who would continue their family lines, and they are the only ones who would perform the religious rituals where daughters cannot, and provide. They're the only ones who would provide financial securities, and daughters were unreliable. Were seen to be unreliable, and they were often expected to leave home after marriage, where parents feel that they were less permanent members of the family. So in some areas, in my opinion, the practice of dowry also contributed to the idea that raising a daughter would be a financial burden, while sons were viewed as an investment. But today, things are changing, and more and more focus on education and exposure to new ideas are helping families realize that daughters can also achieve as much as sons. And personally, I could also study abroad with the help of my family's full support as a daughter. And all this experience has taught me how much potential is unlocked when we give children equal opportunities. So while the traditions may explain the past, but I believe those outdated ideas are slowly fading, but still fading away. So, and the society is moving towards valuing sons and daughters equally.
Okay, then on a personal note, would you prefer a son or daughter, and could you briefly explain why?
For me, well, it doesn't really matter whether I have a son or a daughter. What matters most is raising a child with love, respect, and equal opportunities. Every child, boy or girl, has unique strengths and potentials. A son can bring comfort and support, and just as a daughter can. So what makes a child valuable is not their gender, but the values they live by and the kind of person they would become. So I do often reflect on my journey as a daughter. Having my family support gave me the chance to pursue my dreams. And those experiences have taught me how important it is to give children encouragement, no matter their gender. So if I have children in the future, my focus won't be on whether it's a boy or girl, but on raising them to be kind, decent, and responsible human beings.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today and for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we just heard from a young person from India how the preference for sons plays out in their country. And now finally, to close today's discussion, so when it comes to this daughters versus son debate, what do you think the right answer is, Trion?
I think there's no right answer for that. You know, all children, they bring energy, brightness, happiness to your life, even though there is some screaming and yelling at the end and crying, of course. You know, as a mom of two, I think, you know, whichever child you have, they become your greatest gift, you know, in your lifetime. And in my case, two boys were the perfect answer. I never expected it, even though my husband still hasn't given up the third one, which might be a daughter, yes.
What about you, Sang-yeon?
So yeah, regardless of gender, it takes the whole village to raise a child. So without considering the gender, giving love and support is all we need for the children.
Right. So it's really clear that at the end of the day, whether it's a son or daughter, each comes with their own joys and challenges. And this shift in preference shows how much society has changed, and it may continue to evolve in the years ahead. And while the debate over sons versus daughters will probably always spark discussion, probably the bigger picture is that more and more parents are focusing less on gender, more on raising happy and healthy children. This brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Trion.
Thank you so much.
Big thanks to Sang-yeon. It's your last official day.
Yes, it is, and thank you for having me.
And we hope that we might not see you.
It's been
great to have you. We might not see you as often, but hopefully we'll see you again sometime. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
앞으로도 이 한미 동맹을 군사 분야뿐만이 아니라 경제 분야 또 다른 과학 기술 분야까지 다 확장해서 미래형으로 발전시켰으면 좋겠습니다.
But we're going to be buying ships from South Korea, but we're also going to have them make ships here with our people, using our people. And we're going to go back into the shipbuilding business again.